And I don't know if I'll make it. All I know is that the sun keeps on shining when you're gone. So I ride the way that takes me to that time when we were young and you were always number one.
Hello everyone and welcome to round 3 of the Nebula rFactor 2016 Championship. We're in Spain going around the Catalonia circuit for 33 laps. It's hopefully going to be a really exciting race with a high chance of rain, and it could fully be a wet start to this race. We've got Craig Baxter, then Philip Krause and Kieran Chadwick in the driver standings, pretty close at this stage in the season. Sam Carpenter took the victory here last season though, so he'll be looking to mount a challenge. I'll now hand you over for a qualifying lap of the Spanish circuit.
Here we are on board with Craig Baxter's Ferrari for a lap of the Circuit de Catalunya for the Spanish Grand Prix. The run down to turn 1 is extremely long, meaning the cars will be reaching high speeds even on the opening lap. Craig hits about 330 kph before breaking down to second gear for the first corner, quickly shifting up to third around the apex of turn 2. The long uphill turn 3 is full throttle in quali trim, but can be quite difficult on these in these hybrid cars with a full tank of fuel and worn tires. Reaching nearly 300 kph before turn 4, Craig again drops down to second gear for a very long right-hander, taking an early apex and getting on the throttle early before shifting back to the right-hand side of the circuit for the downhill turn 5, where the car drops down to first gear for the first time during the lap. Careful on the throttle as you come out of the corner and avoid the exit curve entirely. Turn 6 kink is of course flat out as Craig moves to the right and starts braking where the curbing starts down to second gear once again. No issues for Craig though as he goes up the hill out of turn 8 and into turn 9, downshifting to fourth gear and lifting off the throttle for yet another punishing corner on the front left tire. Flat out again and towards the heaviest braking zone on the circuit at the turn 10 hairpin, Craig uses first gear once again, misses his apex slightly and avoids the curb at the exit of the corner. Briefly, full throttle through turn 11 before breaking down to second gear for another long right-hander at turn 12, then a short burst of speed towards the old penultimate corner before dropping down to first yet again, second for a brief moment before using first once again to navigate the tricky chicane. A slight twist at the exit of the chicane for Craig, then it's full throttle through the final corner for a 120.942 and pole position for Baxter.
On to the qualifying classification for the Spanish Grand Prix. As you've seen, Craig Baxter takes pole with a 120.942, really close behind him, only 400ths of a second. Sam Carpenter in second place. Then less than a tenth of a second back, it's Kieran Chadwick in the Force India, one of the championship contenders. Martinez, after getting a back of grid last race, is in 4th place for the start of this race. Davison with an impressive 5th place in qualifying this time around. Matt Shepherd in 6th, looking to score his first points of the season after an unlucky start to this season. Mike Panneman in 7th, also a best qualifying position for him. Philip Krause unable to set a time in Q2, as well as Nick Brackey and Fred Bodden. Ellis Bozuita, the first person out in Q1. Philip Wilmer behind him. Adam Bozuita, then Richard Taylor in the two Manners. Evan Rice missing qualifying will be starting 15th place. Asger Hebsgaard having an invalidated lap time after being P2 in Q1, but has to start from the back. It's race time in Spain. It's Baxter on pole position ahead of Carpenter, separated by a few hundredths in qualifying. You've got Kieran Chadwick, the championship contender, in 3rd place. Tommy Martinez, after a poor showing in Australia after his fuel problem and back of the grid in Bahrain, he's going to be starting on the second row of the grid as we await for the lights to come out here in Spain. It's going to be Baxter leading the way off the line. It's 3 lights, 4 lights, now we have 5 lights. The lights are out and we are racing around this Catalonia circuit, and it's Baxter who's got off to a good start. Carpenter nearly into the wall. It also looks like a man at the back's got bogged down as side by side Baxter and Chadwick into turn 1. Martinez as well going around the outside of Davison as Matt Shepherd gets hit by the Williams, I think, and that's Krause who's also lost out in a few positions there. So it's a good start by Baxter in the Ferrari. Chadwick all over the back from here, and Martinez has made up a place, and the biggest loser out of that entire start was Carpenter, who was off and into the grass.
Yeah, and I think that mid-pack, there's quite a bit of damage or quite a bit of contact between all the cars in the mid-pack there. It's looking quite busy to see cars going down the hill and up the hill again towards Campsa Corner. You see Craig Baxter in the lead there, just about fending off Kieran Chadwick at the start. I think Chadwick tried to hang it around his outside. He might have a run here on the straight. If he's close enough, he might be able to make a move into the hairpin. Not quite enough room there, but I think the field's starting to string out a bit, and drivers are starting to get into their actual positions now.
Yeah, drivers will be starting to get into the rhythm. You got to make sure you don't make any mistakes in these opening laps. Chadwick is really close to Baxter here though, so he might be able to get a move on the straight. Obviously no DRS in this mod, so drivers will not be getting DRS, although slipstream will be effective around that final corner. You will get some dirty air though, so it sort of negates the effect of the slipstream a bit. But here we go, Chadwick all over the back of Baxter now. Will he be able to make a move into turn 1? Baxter goes defensive, and that looks like he takes the inside line. Is Chadwick now? Is he going to try and hang it round the outside? Baxter breaks later, leads into turn 1, although that's Shepherd making a move on Davison and Krause as well, all over to the back. That's Carpenter getting back past Richard Taylor there, and Taylor getting ever so close to him. Is Chadwick's going to try and dive it down the inside? No, not quite, of Baxter. Martinez just lurking on the back of that there, and that's Evan Rice, Philip Krause and Davison. There's so much battling going on here in this race. All the drivers really getting into it, and that's Bodden making a move on Krause. That's a great move by Bodden. It was Bodden, not Rice. I'm sorry about that, but Shepherd has lost a lot of positions there, so something's happened to Shepherd.
Yeah, I think he span at turn 2, but Scott Davison trying to make a move, I believe, on Philip Krause. He had to back out of there. It's not really an overtaking spot. He's gone a little bit wide, and that's allowed the Red Bull, I believe, of Martinez and Asker Hebsgaard up the inside of 2 cars there, and he absolutely overtakes 2 cars in 1 corner. Great move by the Danish driver there, and he has moved up into, I believe, 6th position now, but great driving from the Sauber driver there.
That's been a tremendous start for him, starting in 15th place, and now he's up into, what, 6th place? Yeah, that was Bracky going alongside, so doing 2 cars in 1 corner and cutting it ever so close. But Chadwick again, he's closer this time around. The battle for first place is between Baxter and Chadwick, because Chadwick goes to the outside. Baxter's going to place his car in the middle of the track, and it looks like it's the exact same as what happened last lap, as we've now got Krause and that's Hebsgaard going side by side. Hebsgaard getting that move done, I think, though. Krause is up the inside. Krause now, he's up to 6th place, but losing a position to Hebsgaard. So after getting a podium in the opening races, it looks like Krause has got a lot of work to do ahead of him today, as the sky does seem to be darkening and the clouds seem to be it seems to be clouding over anyway, so we might be in for a rain shower here.
Yeah, I was just about to point that out. The clouds are rolling into the Catalonia area here, but Philip Krause in 6th at the moment. You can just see the effect of the dirty air hitting his car at the moment, and that's Max Shepherd. We're seeing a replay just now. He got past Scott Davison, then out of turn 2. I think he just got a bit of wheel spin. He hit the barrier on the left-hand side of the circuit. He luckily manages to just about hold his front wing onto his car and manages to escape without too much damage. We're going to see in our replay here Fred Bodden diving up the inside. He's having to ride the entire curb on the inside. There's a little bit wheel bang as well, but he makes that move stick on Philip Krause. An aggressive move from Fred Bodden there, but he gets it stuck.
Really nice move as well. Bodden finally showing a bit of aggression that most people wanted to see last season, albeit maybe a season too late. But we're going to get another replay here of Shepherd. This is after the spin, and it's Richard Taylor who has a massive off. I think he loses a rear wheel there, in Shepherd. I honestly don't know how he managed to avoid that. That was really close. Although Carpenter all over the back of Davison. Carpenter now making his way up to 7th place after that horrible start for him. Not really much to explain it. I think he just got too much on the power too early, getting a little bit excited, and he's actually lucky not to spin. So he's going to have to do a lot of work if he wants to get back up into fighting for even a podium, I would say.
Yeah, and then you can see the front 3 starting to pull away from the rest of the pack here as the field spreads out a little bit. A lot of lockups from the drivers here, and you can see the clouds are still rolling in. It's getting a little bit darker, so we could see rain in the near future. And I believe that is rain. That is starting to rain in the circuit.
Commentators curse there. I don't think any of the drivers will be thinking about pitting this lap unless this rain comes down pretty hard. But the drivers know what they're doing out there. It's going to get pretty slippy out there. Chadwick, though, losing a bit of time to Baxter out ahead. He's just managing that gap. ever so well. Chadwick doesn't look to be close enough to make a move here, although he does have a nice exit from that chicane. Definitely not close enough to make a move into turn 1 this time around, but we're going to have to see if the drivers or any driver thinks about coming into the pits for intermediate tyres soon.
Yeah, definitely. I think strategy is going to be a pretty key element of this race, as always. You see, I think Fred Bodden's getting hounded by the Sauer of Hebsgaard, so Hebsgaard having another good race. I think there's a bit of a glitch there with the Red Bull. I'm not quite sure what happened. Max Shepard there trying to chase down, I believe, Evan Rice in 9th position. You see Hebsgaard's all over the back of Fred Bodden. He's already caught up, and I believe Bodden's made a mistake, and Hebsgaard goes up the inside, the long right-hander. I think he's going to make the move here, and he makes the moves just about stick as the rain comes down a bit harder, and I believe that the drivers are going to look to put on intermediate tyres if the rain keeps on coming down at this rate. But Bodden comes back down the inside, retakes the position, and forces Hebsgaard out wide. So it's a great battle between these two drivers at the moment.
Yeah, Hebsgaard looking all over the back of him though here, and that's Kraus, I think, catching up on them as well. So Kraus has just been biding his time, maybe saving some fuel. Bodden really seems to be struggling in comparison to the Sauer driver as Hebsgaard goes a bit sideways. That's going to allow Kraus onto the back of him. These three are really close to each other, and drivers may be coming into the pits this lap. We're going to see if Baxter will be the first to take the bait and come into the pits. Then the rain does look like it is pretty heavy, and it is heavy enough for intermediate tyres, I would say. But yeah, Baxter is into the pits. He's the first person out of all the drivers to come into the pits. So Chadwick stays out. Does anyone else come in? Let's see. We're get a shot of the final corner. We'll see. That's Martinez.
That's a Red Bull.
Martinez is in as well.
Red Bull's into bits. And someone else, Force India, I think.
And that's side by side with Carpenter and Kraus down this back straight. Here we go. Yeah, Kraus under attack from Carpenter. He's made up a lot of time in the last 2 laps, and that's Carpenter up and into. That is 3rd position, I believe. So that's a great move for Carpenter.
It's a good comeback drive from Carpenter at the moment. But obviously, a few drivers, I believe, Baxter's pitted, and a few other drivers have pitted for intermediate tyres. But rain's still continuing to come down here. So will these drivers stay out or come into pit intermediate tyres? I'm just wondering, because at the moment it's still coming down at the same rate, but it could ease up.
I would say it looks like it's eased off a little.
Yeah, it's easing up a little. So do they stay out or do they do they pit for intermediate tyres? That's the thing.
Well, Baxter's already pit, and that's Davison into the grass, and he's round. So that's Davison after a great qualifying position. He's spun the car around and he's lost all. And yeah, that's Baxter who's got past him. So he's now down to 10th place and a pit stop behind Baxter. And we may get some good knowledge here to see if Davison is able to actually get back past Baxter to see if he's struggling on those intermediate tyres.
Yeah, Baxter's on the intermediate tyres. One of the first drivers, I think he actually was the first driver to pit onto the intermediate tyres, but I think he's struggling at the moment, just trying to find time. The rain has actually stopped on the circuits. You see the Sauber up ahead go wide. I don't think he's going to try. No, he lets Baxter through. But Baxter on intermediate tyres here, he's going to have to count on the rain coming back down again. But the track's a little bit moist. But yeah, track's moist at the moment. But I don't think it's quite ready for intermediate tyres. It's still, the option tyres are still the better tyre at this moment in time.
Ever so late on the brakes though for Baxter into turn 1. He's still faster than Adam Bosweet. Is he going to go and hang it round the outside of the Manor driver on those intermediate tyres? You can see just how much he's understeering out wide, managing to keep it within track limits. Is he going to do him around the outside of that corner? Yes, he is. Fantastic move there from Baxter, getting past the Manor driver. So on the worst tyre in these conditions, manages to make that stick, and that's rain starting to come back on. So this might all well and good play into Baxter's hand, and that's Martinez, who's now made a pit stop back onto the medium compound tyre. So he'll be kicking himself if this rain comes down heavier.
Yeah, he's pitted onto the dry tyre as soon as the rain has started again, which is a bit of a strategy blunder, but obviously you can't really tell when the rain's coming down. It could come down at any point in the race, so it's a bit of a hit and miss in terms of strategy. You see Carpenter ahead of Kraus there. All these drivers haven't pitted yet, so they've made the right decision. You see Baxter there. Is that Baxter? Or is that? No, that's Shepard skipping the chicane there. I think he just got a little bit of oversteer in the chicane, had to skip it. I don't know if he's gained time or not by doing that. You see the drivers at the back of the field. It's quite a mix of strategies at the moment. As you see, Bodden, I believe, is coming in for intermediate tyres.
And there's also a car ahead of him coming in for intermediate tyres. So yeah, it does look like it is getting heavier. So this is going to be a really tough in lap for some of these drivers. They're really struggling here. So is this going to lock into Baxter's hand? This Kraus almost into the wall. That's a massive oversteer moment for him, and that's I think that's Bracky making the move on Hebsgaard. So, but Hebsgaard gets him back up the inside. Lovely battling going on throughout the field here with this wet weather, and you can see just how much these drivers are struggling now on these dry compound tyres as they go side by side up the hill. Kraus manages to hold on to that position. Carpenter, though, is he going to try and dive it down the inside? You'll think about it, but not quite. Are they going to make the corner? Barely. And Chadwick, I think, is going to be coming into the pits as Kraus gets a big tank slapper there. These drivers are really starting to struggle with these conditions.
Yeah, they're really going to have to pit for intermediate tyres. Just getting far too dangerous. See, Phillips is almost sideways every corner. They go side by side through the corner. I think Sam's just about got that move stuck, and I think they're going to have to pit. There's just no way they're staying out in these dry tyres at the moment in time. Baxter, I believe, has stayed out on the intermediate tyres. He's risked that strategy, and I guess it's paid off for him, actually.
Well, we're going to see if he comes out ahead of Chadwick.
I think he is. It's going to be close, though.
No, it's not even close.
Yeah, Baxter comes out in the lead of the race, and he's actually gained maybe 2 to 3 seconds on Chadwick, but he is on older tyres, so that might play into his strategy a little bit. But you see the gap to the rest of the drivers is absolutely huge at this moment in time. I think Carpenter just about comes out ahead of the McLaren of Philip Kraus, and that is the Williams of Evan, I think.
Evan Rice. He's made a good strategy call after missing qualifying. So he started at the back of the grid and he's found himself up into 5th place. So it's been a really decent drive from him, just not making any mistakes, just making the right calls, and he's gained a few positions. See Carpenter struggling. The drivers are now going to have to make sure they don't overdo this, and hopefully we can get a good battle between the Mercedes and the McLaren here.
And you can just see the spray being kicked up as well. Obviously that will affect Philip quite a bit as he tries to follow Sam Carpenter up the hill towards the Campsa corner, and it is getting heavier. The rain is I think it's still getting heavier at the moment. It's not easing off, so the drivers have made the right decision and all pitting to intermediate tyres, but they lost a lot of time staying out that one extra lap on the dry tyres. They should have really pitted a lap earlier, but yeah, it's field's starting to spread out a bit now as the race calms down a little bit, and you can see all the drivers heading back around for the end of the lap. Baxter still leads on lap 10 of the race.
How much will Tommy Martinez be kicking himself after pitting onto those dry tyres? I mean, he literally just drove out the pits, and the rain came down heavier as he just went off those intermediate tyres. It's honestly, he could have found himself in 2nd place, but instead of gambling, he decided to not lose any more time, and now he's found himself down in 14th place. It's not went well for him.
That's the compromise, though. If you risk a strategy, you've got to go through with it. If you change your mind later on, it might bite you in the arse, as they say. And it's obviously made his race a lot worse in terms of strategy. I believe he's pitted one more time than the other drivers. I think he's pitted twice now, which hasn't worked a lot for him. You can see Tommy Martinez, he's right on the back of the grid now in 14th place, chasing down, I believe, the Renault of Crespo here. He's got a great tow along the straight. You can see the spray being kicked up. He goes to the inside, almost to the edge of the track, and he's going to go down the inside. Crespo's going to try and hang it around the outside, and Crespo manages to stick it in for that overtake. Martinez got much better line through the long right-hander, and I believe he's going to just about make the move stick around the outside the Renault, and he moves up into 13th place, but Crespo thinks about taking the place back. But good battle between the two drivers there, but you can see how much this strategy has really made Martinez suffer in this race.
Well, he's made, 2 extra pit stops? So,
yep.
I mean, that's 40 seconds at least right there that he's lost to the leaders. He was in for a chance to win this race as Kraus onto the back of the Mercedes driver of Carpenter, makes that look easy, just sweeps in front, takes the final place of the podium away from Carpenter. So these two guys really going at it here. Philip Kraus hasn't finished off the podium all season, so he's going to be trying to keep that run. Carpenter does not have such a record, and these two drivers fairly evenly matched in qualifying, I would say Kraus seemed to have a little bit better pace over the one lap, but now that it's no wet conditions, the dry lap times mean absolutely nothing as Kraus goes a bit sideways into that corner. Rice hanging on to the back of them pretty well there, and Bracky Hebsgaard then followed by Scott Davison.
And I'd like to point out it has stopped raining on the circuit and it's brightening up a little bit, but there are still clouds in the sky, so could still see another shower come into the circuit. And at this moment in time, it's still intermediate conditions because the track hasn't dried out. It will take quite a while for the track to dry out as the cars go along it. You see Baxter extending his lead in the race at the moment. He's ahead on to, I believe, lap 12. He's in a fairly comfortable position at the moment ahead of Chadwick.
The drivers look as if they're on soft compound tyres. The tyre compounds, the actual texture of them doesn't change within rFactor replays, so we cannot show them, but just trust us when we tell you what compound each driver is on. I think almost everyone on the track right now is on intermediate tyres, so we can't really be confused about that. But back to the racing, and it's Kraus who's managed to make a little bit of a gap to Carpenter. Rice still hanging on there pretty well, and it's side by side with Bracky and Hebsgaard. Hebsgaard making the move stick into turn 1, getting past the Red Bull driver, and Hebsgaard, who didn't really have a good showing out in Bahrain. It wasn't really a solid race for him after he done really well in Australia, so it'll hopefully be pretty good for him this race after having his qualifying lap invalidated. So he had a really strong lap in Q1. He managed to qualify in second place, but had to take the invalidated lap, otherwise he would start back a grid for the next race. So Bracky then losing time to Hebsgaard here, so he's really doing well, showing really strong pace here as a newcomer this season. Yeah,
and Hebsgaard's a lot of pace this race. He's had a quite exciting race, a lot of battles throughout the first 12 laps of the race. Definitely one to look for later in the later half of the season, latter half of the season, sorry. You see Bracky struggling a little bit on the brakes as we look behind at Philip Kraus, the battle between Philip Kraus and Sam Carpenter. Sam has a thought about he thinks about going down the inside of the last chicane, but backs out of it as you see them going through the last corner, and Carpenter's going to have a good toe on the straight now. Will he try to make a move down the straight and into turn 1? He's down the inside of Kraus, they head wheel to wheel into the first corner of the circuit, and I believe that's an easy move for Sam, but Philip tries to hang around the outside of Sam, doesn't quite make the move stick, and Sam moves up into a podium position, I believe.
Interesting that Kraus didn't take the defensive line into turn 1 like we've seen Baxter do against Chadwick, so I don't know if he didn't see Carpenter coming or Carpenter got a really good toe, but interesting that Kraus didn't put up more of a fight in that one.
Might be the offline is a little bit wetter than the racing line. It might be that, and he doesn't want to risk like locking up the brakes or going wide into the corner. I don't know, because if the drivers are sticking to the racing line, it will obviously dry out the track, and that part of the track will be a little bit drier than off track. But seeing Scott Davison go up the hill, I believe he's behind the Red Bull of Nick Bracky now. Scott's he's had a good race so far, apart from that one spin that he's had, and it's looking like it could be a good battle between these three drivers. You see Bracky goes a little bit wide, almost off the circuit once again. Definitely struggling as the rain starts to come back down again as they head into the end of the lap now, and just the understeer you get on these intermediate tyres in these wet conditions is pretty bad at the moment. See Bracky go wide once again. Head into the chicane, and they're going to end the lap here. Bracky going wide at almost every corner in this lap, and he's struggling at the moment on these intermediate tyres. I don't know if the track's getting a lot wetter than it had been the past few laps, but we'll see.
He seemed pretty strong in the dry conditions, but as you say, as soon as the rain's coming down heavier, he does seem to be struggling more. We can see Davison closing under the braking and actually runs wide, misses the corner, but I think overall he did manage to gain a bit of time on Bracky through those corners there, but the Red Bull driver, he's yet to score some really solid points, so he'll definitely be wanting to get some solid points on the board as well. Martinez's teammate as well, obviously wanting to score some more points to get back into the championship fight, as we get a replay here of Philip Wilmer, and he just comes out of that final corner getting a little bit off the racing line, and that's probably his race over unless he's going to have to go around an entire lap without a front wing. So big crash for him there, and most likely out of this Spanish Grand Prix.
And he did the exact same thing as Richard Taylor did, just spinning out that last corner. I think he went on the curb, which is a little bit wetter than the normal track, and that caused him to spin round onto the inside wall. And at least he didn't lose a wheel, but I think he's got pretty bad car damage at the moment. But it's a good battle here between Philip Kraus and Sam Carpenter on just as we approach the midpoint of the race. A lot of understeer from Kraus's car as he sticks in the dirt air through that chicane out the last corner. Now, I don't know if he's going to be close enough on this straight here to make a move into turn 1, but it's very, very close between these two drivers. It's almost like 2x2 in this race, as you see Chadwick and Baxter battle out at the front of the race. Carpenter goes a little bit wide, but you can see Kraus having trouble trying to close up. The dirt air is awful in this track, and you can just see that as he almost goes off the track trying to follow Carpenter.
Trying to take a different line. I don't know if you noticed that through turns 3 and 4, but it's still not working. The dirt air just seems too much here for the McLaren driver. So interesting to see. Carpenter has really strong pace as Kraus runs really deep again. Carpenter's seemed to come alive in this race. We've seen last year he took the victory. He got pole position as well. So he does really like this track. Qualified second today, but really poor start. Has basically hampered his chances at winning this race unless something happens to Baxter or Chadwick up front. So it's been a solid drive from Baxter so far, showing that he showed in the first 2 races of this season, winning them pretty comfortably, and he's trying to do the exact same this one.
Yeah, and apart from that strategy blunder earlier in the race where he pitted onto intermediate tyres and then it stopped raining, I think it's been fairly dominant performance from Baxter once again in this race. Chadwick's had a little bit of a battle at the start of the race, but apart from that, I think he's just been pulling the gap out at the front. It's a fairly dull race for these two front runners at the moment, but with the rain coming down again, we could see a mix up of strategies. It could dry out, it could get a lot wetter, we could even go to full wet tyres if it rains heavily, so we could see a massive mix in terms of strategies for this race.
Well, there's still showers in the air as Chadwick now stuck behind the lap car of Crespo, or a car that will be lapped by Chadwick anyway, lapped by Baxter already of course. Bannerman is under attack from, I think that's Martinez behind him, so Martinez now finally getting himself, or at least trying to get himself back into point scoring positions. It just shows you how much time he lost there and how compressed the field is. I mean, he lost 40 seconds and he dropped to last place, so all the guys really showing some decent pace out here in the rain for what is a lot of the drivers' first fully wet race. I would, well, not fully wet because we're not on the wet compound tyres, but this race has been mostly wet, and some of the guys have never drove in the wet before, so it's really nice.
Yeah, I think the only wet race we've actually seen in Nebula was last season's 2015 Japanese GP, which went to full wets, and I think it dried out to intermediate tyres at the end.
Yeah, that was a crazy race, and the conditions were cheap. It was madness.
So it was a massive mix in terms of the tyres that they used. It started off dry, then I think on lap 2 it went to intermediates or something like that. And you see out the last corner, Martinez had a much better run than Panamon, and they're going to head wheel to wheel once again down this long straight, so one of the longest straights in the F1 calendar, down into turn 1. I believe Martinez has just about got the move done, but Panamon's trying to hold it around his outside. They just about avoid contact, and Panamon moves back into 11th, and Martinez moves up into 10th place. Back on board with the man running in second at the moment, Chadwick. He's actually lost it. He's gone off the circuit. He's going to hit the wall, possibly. He manages just about to slow the car down, but I'm not sure what happened.
Is he going to be able to get out? Is he going to be able to get out of the gravel?
His car's still moving, I believe. I'm not sure. We'll see. Yeah, he's just about got the car moving, but it's a very scary moment for the Force India driver there. I'm not sure what happened, if he just locked up going to the corner, but it's a weird place to go off the circuit. That's
Philip Kraus though. Philip Kraus has actually managed to get past Chadwick into the next corner, so Kraus then, who was running in third position, is actually behind Chad, or drawing on points with Chadwick in the championship, as Chadwick gets back past after Kraus runs wide. Absolutely, it came from nowhere. Chadwick was just just got past Crespo, and he seemed to just lose it coming down the hill. There's a little bit of bump there on the track, so a bit wet, getting a bit sideways over the bump, and no way to slow the car down as That's Chadwick and Kraus that's pitted anyway.
I think they're coming for dry tyres.
Yeah, they're coming in for medium tyres, I would say.
Yeah, I think the medium tyres should last to the end of the race at this point. But I think the track's dried out to the point where it's actually dry tyres now. It's obviously...
Well, Carpenter pitted last lap, so is he going to jump these guys?
He could well do. We'll see what the gap is between these drivers and Carpenter. It's a car coming along the main straight just now, and yeah, he's jumped them. So it's an undercut by Carpenter there. It's a bit of a risk, and he's jumped them. So he's moved up into, I believe, 3rd place. So it's a really good strategy call from Carpenter there.
He's going to be wondering how on earth he's ahead of Chadwick after he pitted from, I think he pitted from 4th position. So obviously we've still got Hebsgaard, Baxter and Davison who have yet to pit, and as we say that, Baxter comes into the pits from the race lead then, under no threat really anymore from Chadwick. Chadwick making that mistake. It's the first real big mistake we've seen from Chadwick this season, and I would say he's pretty lucky to get out of that gravel, lucky that it was wet, that he was able to actually get the car moving again, and not actually beach and having to retire from the race. Yeah,
it was very lucky that he didn't actually lose his front wing or even a wheel, because it was a fairly hefty hit with the wall, but luckily he managed to just about slow the car down. Obviously the gravel trap helping him do that quite a bit. It's obviously doing its job in slowing the car down. But you can see the gap there between, I believe, Chadwick and Baxter.
And that was Davison. That was Scott Davison. Yeah, so
it's the other force in there. You can see Carpenter there in 2nd, and he's got a fair gap to Chadwick and Philip Kraus behind. So strategy he's managed to pull off, and if he doesn't make any mistakes, he could be finishing in 2nd in this race for what seemed like more of a damage limitation for this race.
Especially after what happened to him at the start.
So it just shows the strategy in a wet race could really make or break your race. We saw a bad strategy call from Tom, obviously unlucky for him, but we saw a good strategy call from Sam, and he's moved up in 2nd. So it just shows how important strategy is in this race.
Yeah, I would definitely say that it's been the make or break for a lot of people this race. You'll get Crespo running in 12th position, though I think he's catching up to Mike Panneman in 11th place, so this is a battle for outside of the point scoring positions. Crespo has been gaining over the last few laps. It's interesting to note though that see on the pit stops, Kraus actually fitted the hard compound tyre, so we're on board with him now, and he's still actually gaining on Chadwick. So I wonder if Chadwick picked up some front wing damage off the wall, or if he actually managed to keep it out of the wall.
I'm just wondering if Philip thinks that the medium tyres won't go to the end. If he's counting on the medium tyre actually going off at the end of the race so he can sort of gain time in a lot of drivers. That's my only rationale behind that thinking, but he's keeping with Chadwick at the moment as he goes sideways into turn 1. Chadwick might have a little bit of car damage, like suspension damage or even side pod damage from that crash, but I didn't really see in the pits whether was his pit stop long or did he repair damage?
No, he had a regular pit stop, so no damage repairs.
So if he did have damage, he didn't choose to repair it, so he didn't lose that much time in the pits. I guess that was the right decision in the end if he's not losing too much time on track. You see I think every driver has pitted onto dry tyres now, either mediums or hards. I think most drivers are on the medium tyres. You see Evan Rice go wide and into the gravel there. It cost him a bit of time, and I believe the Red Bull, is that Martinez or Bracky?
That's Bracky.
So it's Bracky moves right onto the back of him as they go down the straight. Bracky might try and move into the hairpin here. I don't think he wants to risk it. The track is still a little bit moist, and he doesn't really want to risk failing in that overtake on the Williams driver.
Rice seems to be having some lag related issues. I don't know if you're seeing this as well. He seems to be floating sort of on the track here, so hopefully that doesn't play a part in this battle. That's Bracky who's lost the car, and he's went sideways, and that's him now going to lose 8th position to Shepherd, I think that is. So Bracky having the spin, losing that place, just getting too early on the power, and he goes off the racing line ever so slightly on the dry tyres, and you'll just spin the car. So We've still got 2 drivers though on intermediate tyres, so they are losing a lot of time here. So I don't know why they're staying out.
I think that they're
going to gamble on rain.
I think they'll have to pit at some point for dry tyres. Like this, you can see the sky is visibly cleared up, and it's actually quite sunny now. There are hardly any clouds in the sky. Yeah, I don't think there are any clouds in the sky. So I think dry tyres possibly to the end of the race, but Hebsgaard might be thinking the same thing as Philip, thinking, oh, the tyres could go off by the end, the dry tyres could go off by the end, like the mediums, but I'm not sure. It's a range of strategies in this race, and it's interesting to see between everyone.
Well, Davison's lost 8 seconds since this pit stop, 6 seconds as he spins around, and as we were saying about the intermediate tyres, that's Davison now spun in that corner a lap after as he reverses into the tyre barrier there, so he might have picked up some rear damage. Lucky not to lose his rear wing there, so Davison spinning, losing even more time. He's going to regret not pitting now. Any advantage that he did gain with the tyres is all gone now, so Hebsgaard, I think he's pitted as well, so that's actually Shepherd who's got the position. Yeah, that's Shepherd who's got the position up into 7th place now, so he's been gifted 2 positions and 2 laps at the exact same corner. He'll definitely not be complaining. Having a good recovery drive after the sort of off and into the wall with the picking up some damage, so it's been a decent drive from him. He's now right on the back of Hebsgaard though, although Hebsgaard has just pitted, put on some fresh medium tyres, so I wonder if Shepherd will even be able to get onto the back of him here.
Yeah, I think there's like a 4 or 5 lap difference in terms of the tyre difference between the Ferrari driver Shepherd and Hebsgaard at the moment. So it's going to be a fair challenge for Shepherd to actually catch up to the Danish driver in the Sauber. But he seems to be doing that now as he goes a little bit off track, goes a little bit wide and gets a bit of wheel spin out of the heading up the hill actually. And you can see the gap there. It is catchable, and I believe there's another car. Is that the Williams in the distance of... I believe it's the Williams of Bodden.
That'd be Rice, I think. Bodden has actually crashed out of the race, so that's his 2nd DNF of the season after never DNFing in the Nebula Championship before it. He's had 2 DNFs this season, so it just shows how hard or how much more challenging this season is in comparison to last. Bodden not really showing his pace or his form from last season. He was really the only person that could take a proper fight to Baxter in the championship, and he's just not been able to show that.
Yeah, and obviously if you don't practice for races, you won't be consistent, you won't be up there with some of the top guys in the race. It just shows that the guys who do more practice in the race will do roughly better, depends on obviously driver skill as well. You see Shepherd, he's sticking with Hebsgaard at the moment. Hebsgaard's not pulling away too much, and I believe Evan Rice hasn't pitted yet. I believe is he still on intermediate tyres, or is he just struggling on dry tyres?
He must have made a mistake.
He
must have made a mistake because he's lost a lot of time. He's on the medium tyres, but he's lost a lot of time in the past few laps, so I don't know if he's just struggling with the damp track. He's had a really solid drive.
Rain's started to come back down again, so could it rain? Could it go to intermediate tyres before the end of the race again? I'm not quite sure, but yeah, Rice is struggling a lot. He's just losing visible time as he goes sideways out the right-hander and into the chicane, and he's going to actually pit as he crosses the red pit line, and he's going to have to go into dry tyres at this point in time, even though it's raining.
It's an interesting choice to go into. He's put on the intermediate compound tyres, so I don't understand that strategy call. I really do not understand that.
It's only just started raining, and it's been drying up for the past 10 or so laps.
We're nowhere near intermediate conditions at the moment, and he's put on intermediate tyres. He's now lost track position, and he's going to be slower. I think that's Bracky that's going to be side by side with him as they make their way towards turn 1. Is Bracky going to get him round the outside or go side by side? Bracky has the racing line though, makes that move look easy, and Rice making what I would say is just a terrible mistake with this pit call. I mean, he's now down into 10th place. He's got the wrong tyre compound on, and he's going to be slower than the guys ahead.
And you can already see the gap which Bracky's sort of pulled out ahead of Evan here, and I think Evan will have to pit again. He's in 10th position though, so he's going to have to lose another 20-25 seconds pitting dry tyres, but he's going to be flying at the end of the race. It just depends on how quickly this rain comes down, and if it continues to rain, if it stops raining, like it's a massive risk going into intermediate tyres at this stage in the race.
That was actually Martinez that Rice was battling with. I'm sorry, keep getting these Red Bull drivers mixed up. Hard to see the helmets, they're very similar. So that was Martinez up into 9th place then, so he's now up into 2 points scoring positions. But you can see as the rain is getting a little bit heavier, it's now playing into Rice's hands. So has Rice actually made a good strategy call, and all the other drivers may have to pit? But as I say that, the rain doesn't seem to be getting much heavier as Rice coming out of the final corner. He's going to have the slipstream. He's going to be able to make a move here. Is Martinez going to go defensive to the inside? No, he's going to stick to the racing line. Rice though on the intermediate tyres, he's off the racing line. Martinez runs deep trying to outbrake him there. So Rice on the wet line is managing to outbrake Martinez on the dry line on his dry tyres, although the dry line is still a bit damp at the moment. So we'll see here just how much Rice will be able to pull away, and if it is the right decision to go onto the intermediate tyres.
It could be a very good strategy call from Rice if it gets a lot wetter and if it continues to be wet to the end of the race, but we have absolutely no idea what the rain will be doing. It's been a bit sporadic, the showers here in Spain, and you see Martinez, he's obviously not on newer tyres. I think he pitted about lap 17-18 onto the medium, so these tyres are a little bit worn, and you can see the gap that Rice has pulled out to the Red Bull drivers, probably 1 or 2 seconds at the moment. So he almost loses the car into the hairpin, just about manages to keep it together. See Baxter in the lead of the race is still on the dry tyres. I think he's going to be risking, at this moment in time, it's getting near the point where you don't really want to pit for wet tyres just in case it screws you over massively in the last 2 or 3 laps in the race. So I think he'll be staying out on the dry tyres.
Well, he has around a 17-second gap, so he has the gap to play with, so there's no point in him making any rash pit decisions, losing a pit stop when it actually looks like the rain is easing off. So yeah, I think Rice has made the wrong decision, gained him a little bit of time, but he's not made up the time that he lost in actually pitting, and obviously he's going to have to pit again, or is he going to stay out and absolutely fry his intermediate tyres? To me, that was just too much of a risk, and there was no point in him even trying that when he was running in a solid 6th position. So he's now down, he's lost 4 positions after that strategy call.
I think it's to the point where he'll just have to stay out. There's 6 laps left in the race, and he's going to lose 20-25 seconds in the pits. Like, I don't think it's worth it really going onto dry tyres if you're not really going to gain anything. Because he could really defend from Martinez on the intermediate tyres, but it's going to be a very difficult job for him if it dries up a lot. And you can see the rain stopped here, but it is still a wet track. I'm sure, is Davison on the dry tyres?
Yeah, Davison is on the dry tyres, you're correct.
Yeah, so he's on the dry tyres. He's had a few mistakes during this race, but he's still in 7th, so he's doing a fairly good job. But see Evan go through the last corner there. It's going to be interesting to see whether he gains on these drivers or loses time, but I think at the moment he'll be losing time because the track isn't really intermediate conditions, is it?
Well, Martinez took 8 tenths out of Rice on the last lap, so Rice is losing a heap of time now that the track is drying out.
I think Evan's just going to have to park the bus if Martinez does actually catch up to him. There is time, 5 laps left in the race. I think there is the time for Martinez to catch up and possibly pass Rice. But you can see is it still raining in the last sector, or has the rain started coming back on again?
I think it's still raining in the last sector, but it's just not heavy enough.
Yep.
It's just not heavy enough for any decision to go on to the intermediate tyres. So the guys just have to stay out there, keep it on the black stuff, and make sure not to crash. We can have a look here. That's the gap between Carpenter and Chadwick. So Chadwick has lost quite a bit of time to Carpenter. So and there's Kraus. So Kraus has lost a hell of a lot of time on those hard tyres. Definitely not the right strategy call for him. Carpenter though has had a really solid drive. That's all you can say after after making what seemed like such a rookie mistake. I mean, we've seen drivers do it before. We've seen it in Australia where someone lost it off the starting grid, but it's just really interesting to see someone like Carpenter, who's been a top caliber driver for most of his time in Nebula, make such a rookie mistake.
And especially with launch control as well, like he just seemed far too eager to put the foot down, get ahead of Baxter, starting from second on the grid, and it cost him probably a lot of time this race. Although he has done an excellent job in actually regaining the time he did lose due to good strategy calls and stuff like that. But he could have been challenging Baxter for the race win, to be honest.
It seems to be the story of this race so far. Baxter's just not made any big, well, obviously the strategy call at the beginning seemed like a big mistake, but it played out in his favour. I mean, he actually ended up gaining time on everyone making that call. It was pretty lucky, but apart from that, he's kept it clean, he's kept it within the track, and he's not made any big mistakes. Where you've had Chadwick, who's went off, he's lucky not to DNF. You've got Carpenter, who lost it at the start, and then you had Kraus, who had a poor qualifying. So we're really yet to see anyone put up a fight to Baxter this season, let alone this race.
And the thing is, unlike Martinez, Baxter actually kept with his strategy, stayed on the intermediate tyres, risking the track drying out even more at the start of the race. As you see a replay here of Bracky going into the wall, and he loses a wheel, and he's out of the race. Bracky's out of the race right at the end of the race here. You're going to see it's actually not on board. I thought it was on board, but he's exited this race very, very late, lap 29. I don't think he'll actually be classified.
If he was, he'd be outside the points anyway. So Bracky, who hasn't really scored any solid points so far this season, he was running extremely well after even spun the car. He was running extremely well, and now he's not going to get any points for his good drive.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame, like, to DNF so close to the end of the race, but you can see Evan up ahead is struggling like hell on these intermediate tyres as the track continues to dry out a bit more. Martinez has just been drawing him in the past few laps, and 4 laps left. It's going to be very, very difficult for Evan to keep Martinez behind him, but we'll see what the Williams driver can do as they head down the straight as they start a new lap. And Martinez has got a massive tow. He could possibly make a move into turn 1. He backs out of it. It's a bit too risky as the track's still a little bit wet, but it's going to be a very tough job for the Williams driver to keep the Red Bull driver behind them.
Yeah, it will be. You can see through the long corners, he's just going to lose more and more time here. Martinez all over the back of Rice's gearbox now. It's going to be a very stellar job if he can do this, but is Martinez going to look down the inside? No, he's going to try and get a launch out of this corner and go up the inside, but as Rice goes slightly to the inside to defend here, Martinez just going to be losing time now. You can see though just how much time Martinez has lost through his mistake in the pits. He's fighting for 8th place here with Rice, where he could be up there fighting with the leaders of the race, and Rice having a bit of a lag issue, and that's allowed Martinez through to take that position. So what I was saying earlier is Rice, he almost loses the car. A lot of people struggling with that corner. As I was saying before, Rice having some sort of connection issues here, maybe some sort of screen freeze. He's actually lost him that position there, so he didn't even get to defend against Martinez.
Yeah, and he'll have to stay out on these intermediate tyres at this point in time. I think there's no real point in actually pitting for dry tyres with 2 laps left in the race. But was that a spit of rain I just saw? I'm not quite sure. Could have been more rain on the way, but it's still cloudy, so it could possibly still rain with, I just believe, 2 more laps to go in this race. But Baxter having no problem leading the race out front unless he makes a mistake, which we haven't really seen from him in this race. There's been once again a very consistent race from Baxter in the Spanish Grand Prix. It's just been the story of this season, consistency and speed from the Ferrari driver. Carpenter, a very, very good comeback job from him this race as he heads up the last corner onto the second last lap. But yeah, it's so a quiet end to this race apart from the battle with Rice and Martinez.
Well, I wouldn't even say that's a battle anymore. Martinez has passed, and I doubt Rice will be able to put up much of a fight. So as you said, yeah, a cam into this race. Kraus then, after poor qualifying, found himself in 4th position. If I personally, I would say he could definitely have done better this race if he didn't go into those hard compound tyres. Had really strong pace, but Hebsgaard though seems to be the star of the race today. He's had a few spins actually out there, and he's still in 5th position. So as you said before, definitely one to watch out for the future races. Shepherd though running in 6th place after his spin and damage. That's also a really good recovery drive for him. So a lot of drivers here making decent recovery drives. I don't know, it just really seems to be like in the wet races, if you make a mistake you don't lose out as much because so many other people will make small mistakes or big mistakes even.
Yeah, the wet races always seem to mix up the running order. I think the top guys are still sort of up there, but in the midfield it definitely mixes it up a lot. We've seen a lot of unpredictable Nebula races this season so far, and I think the wet weather, obviously with showers coming down, with the track drying out, and the mix of strategies, it just mixes, just like real life, it just mixes up the order completely, which is a good thing to see. I think it just makes the races a bit more exciting. We've not seen too many battles because obviously drivers on different strategies, they're going to be different pace, but you just see how much Evan Rice is struggling on these intermediate tyres. He's going to have to limp with that car home. I think he's going to be happy that he managed to actually finish in 9th in the points, considering bad strategy calls. So yeah, 9th position, not too bad, but at the same time I think he'd be fighting for more points in a race like this.
Yeah, he should be up there fighting with some of the faster guys. He's shown really strong pace this season, but not really been able to capitalise on it. Baxter though, who's yet to win the Spanish Grand Prix in Nebula, looks to be putting that one to bed. He's going to be making it 3 in a row. He's won the first 2 races of the season, just a few more corners to navigate before he takes the checkered flag here in Spain. It's been a really solid drive from him. Little to no mistakes there as he runs a bit off the final chicane. But coming round the final corner then, the Ferrari driver is going to make it 3 out of 3 so far this season. Maximum points. It's Baxter who wins in Catalonia for the Spanish Grand Prix. The first time he's won in Spain and Nebula. It's going to be Carpenter who takes 2nd place. A recovery drive really after what happened on the first lap. He won't be too happy with 2nd place, but he'll definitely be happy with his recovery drive. Chadwick making a big mistake, finding himself in 3rd place.
And Philip Kraus in 4th place now, heading out the last corner, and it's been a fairly dull end to the race for him, but he's had a few good battles with drivers like Carpenter, Chadwick and Asgard Hebsgaard, driver of the day I think, having a lot of good battles, making overtakes stick, and very, very good strategy calls. You can see the Force India of Scott Davison and Martinez finishing very, very close to each other. Martinez might even have a run into the last corner. It's very, very close between these two drivers, but Scott Davison just about manages to hold him off.
Shepherd's lost 6th position on the final lap. Shepherd's down to 8th place, and Rice comes home to take 9th. So Shepherd having some issues on the final lap of the race and losing 2 positions. On today's classification for the Spanish Grand Prix, Craig Baxter takes victory once again, 17.6 seconds ahead of Sam Carpenter in the Mercedes after his poor start. Kieran Chadwick in 3rd with the last person on the podium. It's Philip Kraus who takes 4th after a late decision to go into hard tyres not paying off. Asger Hebsgaard in 5th after climbing 10 places off the starting grid. It's Scott Davison who gets 6th, Tommy Martinez 7th, Max Shepherd in 8th, then Evan Rice and Mike Panneman for the top 10. It's Craig Baxter though who extends his gap out of the championship to 27 points. That's 3 out of 3 races for him. Kieran Chadwick and Philip Kraus, the 2 people closest behind. Sam Carpenter, after getting disqualified, is getting his championship back on contention. Tommy Martinez not doing as well as possible, and Asger Hebsgaard the surprise of most. Onto the constructor standings, Ferrari have a 23-point gap over Force India. Craig Baxter scoring most of those points. Kieran Chadwick and Scott Davison though doing well for Force India. McLaren, after Callum Knighton missing a few races, they are really doing well in 3rd place. Mercedes in 4th, Red Bull in 5th, Sauber and Williams battling with each other, then the rest of the teams down the bottom struggling to score a great deal amount of points. So on to the next race then. It's the German Grand Prix. It's round 4 of the 2016 Championship. Craig Baxter took the victory last time out, and it was a tremendous race. Let's hope we can have as good a race, and I'd like to thank everyone for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.